So you may not want to admit it, but this is what peak promotional video looks like. And just the green screen with the goat walking by as our girl is just like amplified to look as tall as a Gundam. You gotta love this show, man. Now, this was without a slower pace episode, but it doesn't mean it was a bad episode in the slightest. It sets in motion quite a few things, and the biggest is where our girls want to go, where Soletta, where Mireen want to go with this technology, this business plan, now that the Ariel's tech is out in the open and it's no longer, is it a Gundam, is it not a Gundam? People kind of tiptoeing around the question, and the concept of using it as medical is a really interesting narrative point, especially given that her father, literally was tearing down companies and places and murdering people doing just that, using it for medical, right? So it's not only an interesting contrast to that of her father, it plays off of previous history, and it's a really interesting concept. But then you have Shadiq, of all characters, come in, who earlier in the episode is trying to convince her to work with him, and we can revolutionize the military gun market, all things considered, and now it seems like their plan has completely backfired. Now, even if, say, there's a duel with Shadiq or any of these characters and they get their license and they're able to use it for medical purposes, there's no denying that tech will eventually be used for war, and I don't think they're ready, especially given that the group that they kind of formed to make the business pop off, they all have history with warfare, and you can tell they don't want to sell, whether even just to Earthians, like they just don't want to sell this tech because they know firsthand the type of devastation that something like the Ariel could actually do to innocent people, and it's pretty interesting. Now, I do got a full live reaction available on the Patreon if you're interested in that, but let's talk about this episode because there's actually quite a bit to discuss, and one of the things that I was really interested in this episode, because I figured we'd at least touch upon it, was the whole lying scene. Because for someone like Soletta, who's believed every word that her mother has ever said to her, to have the thing that, is Ariel a Gundam? No, Ariel's not a Gundam, and then, oh yeah, she actually is. And you can really see how nervous she is because her world's starting to shatter. And the best way to explain what just happened here is there's a crack. A crack started to form on our girl's heart last week, and very quickly into this episode, Prospera put a band-aid on that crack, and in doing so, Soletta went back to being cheerful, like, my mom is the best. And people may want to say that's, they don't like that, it's too easy, you're going back on development, but no, this is the realistic path. This is a very sheltered girl who has trusted every word that this woman has ever said to her. There's no denying that she lied to her, but the way she explained it with her arm and how people are scared of the unknown, it makes sense why she bought into that. But here's the thing, that crack is the first of many. There's going to be multiple points throughout this run where lies or actions are going to cause Soletta to look at Prospera's actions and say, I don't understand why you're doing this, I don't like what you're doing, or not trusting. And the more cracks that form eventually lead to a shatter, and that shatter is what we're building up to, because there's no denying that there's going to come a point where Soletta versus Prospera is probably going to happen. Not necessarily in an action or a fight, but more so in a conflict of ideals. And for someone with a wish list who's checking off those things, it's something that feels like eventually it's going to be parents versus students versus, all these different conflicts. We already kind of have two different sides of the conflict on the adult sides in terms of main interesting points. And right now it almost feels like the kids are going to be the interesting third wheel where they're trying to use this tech for medical, and shit's eventually going to hit the fan. I still stick by saying what's going to happen is we know we have 2 official cores planned as it stands. We end this core this season, we take a season break, come back again. Most likely what's going to happen is after the initial planned 25 episodes, they'll then confirm the next batch of 25. And I think what they're planning here is to make this more of the setup, more of the prologue in a lot of ways. Yes, we had an episode 0 that served as a prologue for the history. This almost feels like we're getting the momentum moving, and by the time we get to the 3rd and 4th core, I'm still expecting a time skip, or I'm still expecting it to be vastly different and thrown into the war setting that Gundam always ends up in. It's just we're taking it slow and we're building up these connections, so when the punchlines come, they're gonna hit us, and they're gonna hit us very hard and very effectively. The thing that I quite like, though, about an episode like this is that you, last week, instead of handling things with conflict, instead of handling things with a duel, it was all about the politics, right? It was about, bowing down to a father who you claim you hate, but honestly, based on his actions last week, very much said that the relationship's a lot more complicated than maybe we were first giving credit to. And the fact that here we're just doing the same thing. It's not about just immediately jumping into a bot and having a Gundam match or anything like that. No, it's all about the politics side of things and the way they went about their presentation and everything. Like, I like how, on paper, that goofy little dance they did in the promotional video, it looks so silly, but when people naturally view things as this is used for killing, and then you see this, like, super nervous, like, kawaii girl doing these weird hand gestures with a Gundam, I mean, it's hard not to say maybe they're actually trying to use it for something other than killing, and maybe the propaganda we've been fed isn't all there is to it, right? And that's what's really fun about an episode like this, is that they clearly had fun, and just to see Choo Choo, which, I mean, Choo Choo came in with that punch a few episodes back, and ever since then, we've wanted to see more of her. Though I still question how her hair changes in every other scene, how it becomes bigger or smaller. Obviously, it's just because of an artist not completely matching up with probably the previous drawing, but it can make you raise an eyebrow or two sometimes when you see how small or large it got within the same scene. It's just absolutely hilarious. But this was a very fun episode, and Shadiq is probably the most interesting player as it stands, just given that he has such an uncertainty, you don't know where his character is going to go, because it's not like he comes across as a scumbag in the typical sense. Like, no denying the backstabbing of Miri in this episode, but it's not the same as, like, I'm putting on a face because I don't care about you and then I'm going to stab you in the back. It's more so, I want to get to my objective. I'm going to get to my objective. I'm trying to get you to come with me, and if you're not, well, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And it's kind of interesting to see a character like that, because there's something about the nice guy attitude that doesn't feel completely fake, but also just anytime he was smiling or saying something, especially after the phone call with his dad, I knew, I was like, I can't trust this mofo. But there's something about the characters in general. I mean, just the fact that with Guel, right, you know, the scene where he was getting everything poured on him and then, you know, didn't even flinch, he just kept eating his breakfast. The fact that he went to talk with Guel of all characters says a lot about his character and just how far ahead he's truly planning. Like, he's not going along with his dad, he's not going along with anyone other than his own desires, and based on some of the scenes with him, it seems like he's already built his own harem, which, honestly, shirt open, long hair, of course he has. That's just the character in general, but I'm interested to see where they go, because it was a great episode. It was a slower episode, but without these types of episodes, Gundam wouldn't be nearly as good as it was. There's people out there who think Gundam's just these big fights and these big deaths, but like the things that make those impactful are the episodes like these that build into them. And for an episode that was all about a promotional video, making a marketing scheme to get your business off the ground, it actually did a lot for character motivations and desires and where they could go in the future. They're clearly teasing that we're going to get a duel with our boy, and you know, he doesn't really seem like the type of person who would do it himself. He seems very calculating, so I'm not sure if Ariel versus Shadiq would actually happen or if it would be someone else. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting nonetheless. And you just casually break my heart with the nice little romantic bike ride down the road to then crushing us with the shattering realization of reality and how harsh it can be. But thoughts and feelings yourself down below. What did you think of this episode? Theories, if you got any on the remaining episodes of Core 1, do let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. You can also consider supporting the Patreon. Like I said, we got a full live reaction available, and you can also get video shoutouts and other perks like that. So do consider if you so wish. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.